Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns, and I have just come from the meeting of the Louisiana State Police Commission for Thursday, August the 10th of 2017. Now let me just say this, blogger Tom Aswell is the one who doggedly stayed on Louisiana State Police affairs, I mean literally for years, going all the way back to mid-2014 when the infamous Edmondson Amendment surfaced, in which there was an attempt to boost his pension by $55,000 a year. It was anonymously fed to him that this had been placed into a bill, and I won't go into all of the details of that, but thereafter Mr. Aswell stayed steadfastly following other leads with regard to state police, and he has diligently attended the Louisiana State Police Commission's meetings. Now, as of the start of 2017, there were some folk who felt like I could be beneficial in showing up with a video camera, because naturally a video camera is certainly able to capture some of the emotion, some of the heat, if you will, the human element that simply can't be reduced to writing on the printed page, at least not very easily. And it also allows you to associate, put faces to people's names, and that sort of thing. And certainly since I have been there, it has been well worth the price of admission, shall we say, and many of you who follow this blog will be well aware of the heated exchange between Lloyd Grafton and Jared Rickey, entailing Mike Edmondson in a position for Jason Starnes. It was a very heated exchange, and then not long thereafter, of course, there was the retirement of Mike Edmondson. But here's what I want to focus on. Ever since I've been coming to these things, there has been this discussion about getting a written report from T. Taylor Townsend. He used to serve as one of the legal counsel for the Louisiana State Police Commission with regard to the conclusions made regarding an investigation about illegal campaign laundering of funds into John Bel Edwards' campaign. Now, I want to emphasize it was not only John Bel Edwards' campaign. There were others, including Bobby Jindal, over the course of the time that this transpired. And I believe there were 5 others in most recent election cycles beyond just John Bel Edwards. But what is unique about that, as many of you would know, and for those of you who don't know, T. Taylor Townsend also serves as the head of Governor John Bel Edwards' Super PAC. So I think you can see for obvious reasons why this would place Mr. T. Taylor Townsend in a somewhat of a precarious position. And this material was turned over to the Ethics Board. The Ethics Board looked at the matter and they found them guilty and assessed a $5,000 fine. There was rapid turnover on the State Police Commission, from all of this. When Mr. Townsend was asked, probably, I guess, roughly a year ago, okay, we need to see the written report on this. Well, Mr. Townsend infamously said, I didn't view there to be a need for a written report on this. Now, as many of you would be aware from several news flashes from 3 or 4 months ago, it's no secret whatsoever but that the FBI is now actively looking into this matter and other related matters, expense vouchers, things of that nature, pertaining to Louisiana State Police. Nevertheless, Mr. Townsend was granted a $75,000 contract, and part of what he was there to do was to look into this campaign laundering on the part of members of the Louisiana State Troopers Association. All of it was done through their executive director, who wrote the checks out of his own personal account and then was reimbursed by the Sheriff's Association by the Louisiana State Troopers Association for those contributions. You may recall Lloyd Grafton, the one who had the heated exchange with Gerald Rickey, said it is blatantly money laundering. And he would be in a position to recognize such a scheme and to, in all likelihood, appropriately characterize it as such. But the reason I'm coming to you today in this, I'm going to make this video brief, is ever since I've been coming, this commission has continued to hound T. Taylor Townsend about, hey, Lenore Feeney, the other attorney, said, look, bottom line is he had an obligation to issue a report, okay? He can't just get off by saying, I see no need for a written report. Now, first of all, how damning is that you would say you see no need for a written report when the ethics board looks at it and says, there's serious irregularities here and we're imposing a $5,000 fine, and yet you feel like a verbal assessment apparently will suffice? And I think it was basically a brush under the rug, sweep under the rug, if you will, which has not been uncommon under the Jindal administration, but you would have thought with Mr. Holier-than-thou honor code John Bel Edwards, that kind of thing wouldn't transpire, would it? But that's where we are, and I mean every meeting I go to, and I could provide you with the historical video. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm just going to go ahead and put that segment of today's meeting where the police commission is continuing to hound T. Taylor Townsend for that report. Before I do that, though, my very first meeting back in January, that was the infamous meeting that they convinced Kathy Durbin to resign. It was a little less than subtle arm twisting, shall we say. And there was an advocate reporter there by Jim Mustaine, and he wanted to at least get some kind of comment out of T. Taylor Townsend about what the hell's going on here. And I want to show you his flippant attitude toward Jim Mustaine. I was there to bring the camera along as he said it, basically saying, oh, you guys don't want to go into all of that. And I guess apparently feels like nobody wants to go into what happened on these campaign contributions. But at any rate, let's break away for that brief clip.
There's somebody who's going to talk to us.
Can you talk to us about?
Are you?
Let's go, guys.
I'm Jim Mustaine with
Hey, Jim, nice to meet you.
Are you Kathy Durbin's attorney? Are you representing her?
No.
Okay.
No.
No, that's next. Huh? What did y'all talk about during the break?
You don't want to get no one out.
Is she? I mean, is this part of some kind of deal? She made some kind of compromise?
All righty, well, you've seen his approach, and that was one of the last meetings he was at. But as I said, Lenore Feeney, the other counsel for Louisiana State Police Commission, has continued to say Mr. Townsend has an obligation to produce a report. Now the question is, why doesn't he? I mean, lawyers are he's certainly not an inept attorney, okay? But yet he is dragging his feet and dragging his feet and dragging his feet and dragging his feet and dragging his feet, and I have no doubt he's doing that so at the direct behest of none other than the top man himself, Governor John Bel Edwards, who no doubt has told him, keep stalling them, keep stalling them, keep stalling them, keep stalling them. And of course, Mr. Townsend is going to say, yes, Governor, yes, Governor, yes, Governor, yes, Governor, because as I mentioned, he is the head of John Bel Edwards' Super PAC, okay? But why are both of them so edgy about Mr. Townsend issuing a report? Well, think about it for a minute. Edwards and Townsend have zero to gain and everything to lose no matter what they put in that report, okay? If he reduces to writing what he had said verbally that, well, there's just no need for reporting, there was no wrongdoing, well, that's not going to look too bright given that there's an FBI investigation going on, we know for a fact. And the ethics board, if there was no wrongdoing, why'd they fine him $5,000 and said this, you can't do what you've done here, okay? So that's the option where he would just say, basically reduce to writing what he apparently brushed aside before. The other scenario is that he says there was wrongdoing here. Well, that implicates, talk about damning, So then you would have him say, never mind what I said before that I wasn't willing to reduce to writing. There were some problems here, okay? And, hey, the FBI is now investigating. So you're not going to look too, I don't know. You're going to have the ultimate egg on your face if you now say there was wrongdoing here, not to mention embarrassing the top executive of this state, Governor John Bel Edwards. Nevertheless, this board this commission is continuing to press T. Taylor Townsend for that report. You'll see Eula Simeon, a board member, say he telephoned him. He would have expected to have had the report by now. Okay, they don't have it. You're going to see the entirety of the discussion about this report they believe they will have it for the September 2017 meetings. That's another, I don't know, 4 weeks away. Okay, I don't know if Governor Edwards is going to be able to stall them past this one, but I'm here to tell you, I've let this matter go and let this matter go and let this matter go because we've had plenty of other things to deal with. You saw the Braxton situation from the last meeting. You saw Lee Zurich come in. You saw all of the fallout from that. But it's time this report was dealt with. So we're going to conclude this video by giving you the entirety of the discussion of the T. Taylor Townsend investigative report concerning the campaign contributions by the Louisiana State Troopers Association. This is Robert Burns. Thank you so much for having tuned in to this video.
Moving on to number 4, discussion of response to SPC request that T. Taylor Townsend produce SPC documents that were obtained or generated by him in his role as legal counsel for the State Police Commission, and of the report that he should have prepared in connection with the summary disposition of docket 16-221-I, investigation of LSTA political contributions. Mr. Hanneman?
I would just advise that, again, as I mentioned at the last commission meeting, we received a box of the documents. Documents were received from Taylor Townsend, and I have gone through those items. There is not a report that's related to document number 16-221-I.
And I was aware, became aware from my communications with you that there was no report, at which point I called Taylor Townsend up and requested, as you had already done, that he provide us with a report. At that point, he promised me that he would get us a report. And I will be happy to call again and get a more specific time frame from him to get that report. It was my impression we would have had it by now based on my earlier discussion.
Please notify us if he provides a report. Please notify the board members as soon as we receive it.
Eulis, you gonna try and give him a deadline or ask him for
Yeah, that's
a
what I'm
specific, you know,
I-
end to this so we can get it off?
Yes, I will. I had an understanding that there wasn't a specific date discussed when we talked. It was my understanding it would have been prior to now, but I'll make sure we talk about a specific date, time, and place.
Thank you.
All right.
When is the, what is the date of the September meeting?
September the 14th.
If possible, could we request that it be submitted a week prior to the meeting for review by the board members?
I'm actually going to ask that it be at least 2 weeks before the meeting.
That'll work, so. Okay, so please note, we're going to request that the report be provided at least 2 weeks prior to the next meeting for review by the board members.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Is there a prescription involved?
Ms. Feeney?
Issuing the report, I mean, you had so much time to have the hearing, and there was already a vote on a summary disposition, so I don't think that there's prescription on the writing of the decision. The commission rendered a decision. It just doesn't have a written decision to sign off on, so there's not, the rules don't address that specifically.
What about breach of contract?
Oh, you're talking about the contract with the state.
That's 10 years.
That's 10 years for that.
10 years.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that satisfies everything. Moving on to number 5, other commission business. Do we have any other commission business to discuss?
Well, maybe back up. Number 4, is there anything else going on contextual around that issue by anybody else in terms of an inquiry? Or am I?
About the LSTA?
Yeah.
There are other state agencies that Mr. Mia has filed complaints with. And so Board of Ethics has completed theirs,
Right.
as I understand it. Did you go to the Inspector General? Did you go to that office?
The civil service is as we speak, investigating
I'm not at liberty to name anyone.
It would have to be
But
an
it-
unclassified
There was a
person, a retired
DPS,
trooper.
a DPS employee that's part of that.
Okay,
So my opinion is that if civil service finds that they have, excuse me, if they have jurisdiction over the LSTA and it's not a separate entity like was found by Mr. Townsend, then you have a conflict there because you're just the civil service for state police, but you have the same rules and guidelines and the same responsibilities as civil service. So it would lead me to believe if civil service says they have authority over their individuals, then we're back to the commission. One of them has to be wrong.
no, you can disagree on the interpretation of the rule. The two different commissions can disagree on how the rule is interpreted.
And not only that, I guess my question would be, is civil service looking at the association or is civil service looking at an employee?
I think he's trying to say if they find that they can pursue an employee that was in the association, then this commission should have done the same thing with respect to the troopers that were in the LSTA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And, but the two commissions can have different interpretations. That can exist.
Well, and I would have a question. Do we have authority, absent discipline being imposed, to pursue anything against any of the employees?
Okay, so only the troopers, not the retired troopers. And that was what you all rendered a decision in the summary disposition when Taylor Townsend gave his thoughts on it in, I think, last July. And that's when you all, it was about whether or not to pursue the individuals, and the decision was not to. Because the decision had already been made that we did not have jurisdiction over the organization. So that is the decision that was rendered in July by the commission.
But my question more specifically, though, is there authority within this commission, absent the appointing authority imposing discipline, for us to pursue discipline against an individual officer if it, similar to the issue involved in the appeal, in the settlement we just rejected?
Yeah, this was outside of discipline to begin with. So this was not a disciplinary appeal. This was an investigation instituted by the commission. Does that answer?
I think that answers the question.
Okay.
But my question is the Inspector General involved in an investigation at this time?
Is he, Mr.? This would be from Mr. Milliat.
Not of the LSTA. I filed a complaint against the troopers that took the out-of-state trip. I filed a complaint with the Hillary Moore, the district attorney here in East Baton Rouge Parish, the Bureau of Investigation.
This is just the political contributions issue we're talking about.
No.
Right?
No,
I mean,
well, I
that's
can
what
tell
his-
you that
That's what he says.
nobody is investigating this with the exception of possibly the legislative auditor if this ties back to the LSTA. But I believe that's going to be separate and apart from this issue that we're discussing now.
And ethics took it up and it's finished with its
The
investigation.
ethics found them guilty. They pled guilty with ethics. They were fined $5,000.
The organization.
Right.
But nobody, the Inspector General's not following this thing here. This
Not
is
to our knowledge.
okay, it's over. That's over. Okay, all right. Okay.
Any further discussion? I'm sorry for moving